Okay, so please don't forget to turn your cameras on. Okay, thank you. Okay, guys, and sorry for the delay. I was answering some questions in my previous class, and it went longer than expected. All right. So today we're gonna continue working on the speaking section. Yesterday we started seeing the speaking section, and let's see. Okay, so yesterday we started on the speaking section, and well, do you guys remember how many questions we had in the speaking section? Does anyone remember? Okay, great. Laura says we have 4, and that's correct. We have 4 questions in the speaking section. We said we have both independent questions, which are the ones that are based, which are the ones in which you have the opportunity to talk about yourself. So you can come up with the ideas you want. You can talk about the things that you want. You know, the content depends entirely on you. But we also saw that there were some integrated questions as well, where you didn't have to talk about yourself, but instead you needed to summarize something specific, right? So sometimes you had to summarize a lecture, sometimes you had to summarize an article, a conversation. But we started with the first question, which was question number 1 yesterday. And we took a look at some of the things behind the question, right? We talked about how they evaluate your responses, what things they're looking for, what things they are expecting from you. We also saw how the structure goes, right? I think we saw an example, right? A video example of how it's going to show on your screen. So you get the instructions first, you get the question, they read it for you, you get 15 seconds to prepare your response so you can think, analyze your options, think about what you're going to say. And then they say, you may start speaking after the beep. You hear a beep, and then the 45 seconds start counting down, right? You have the clock in there, and it goes 45, 44, 43 until it gets to 0. And your time is up, they stop recording, right? What else did we do yesterday? We heard some sample responses as well, right? We heard some sample responses. We looked at the topics that you had. These were the topics, right? We said that most of the time they talk about work, education, relationships, forms of recreation, lifestyle, and health. And sometimes you had the other ones. And I remember that I promised to send you a document containing vocabulary for the speaking section. So I'm gonna send you this document now. I'm gonna send it to you. And you have it on our Zoom chat, okay? In this PDF, you guys will find basically a list of words, you know? I just recommend that you check them out, and you always try to study vocabulary with context, we said, right? So just check this out so that you you become familiarized with the phrases or the words you have here, and then try to read about these topics, right? That's the best way to study vocabulary. Read, listen to these listen to maybe podcasts on this, watch videos, read about these topics, and that's how you'll learn vocabulary. But as you can see in here, you will find, well, basically you'll find phrases and expressions and vocabulary for things related to education. You have things related to work life. You have things related to relationships, which is what we talked about, business. Then you have technology, health, environment, and that's it, right? Those are the topics you have in this worksheet. So make sure that you check it out, and then if you need vocabulary, you do so with context, right? Do you guys have any questions then before we start? Okay, guys. So yesterday we just heard some sample responses, but we didn't do our own, right? We didn't hear realistic responses from us. I didn't give you feedback, and I didn't actually tell you how to do it, right? And that's what we're gonna do today. And obviously, we're gonna practice if we have time. So, David, could you please read the question you have on my screen?
Some people like to study in public places where there are other people around. Others prefer to study in places where there are few or no people around. Which kind of place do you prefer? Explain why.
Okay, great. So the first thing you need to do, you will hear the question the way that David just read it. And the first thing you need to do, remember you have 15 seconds to prepare, which is not a lot, is obviously choose your opinion, right? You need to pick a side. You need to see what your opinion will be, what your answer to this question will be. How will you answer this question? And in order to do that, you need to first identify the options you have. So we have two options in here. Can anyone tell me what those options are?
Public place and place where there are a few.
Exactly. You have two options. Option one, public places. And option two, places where there's no one around, right? Or few or no people around. Okay, guys, you have those two options. Now, the first tip I'm going to give you is, please, you only have 15 seconds. Don't overanalyze the question. Once you identify the two options, you need to choose one as quickly as you can. You don't have enough time to start to think about them, to compare or to contrast them, to think about the differences or which one is better. Actually, it doesn't matter which one you choose, because honestly, the majority of time, you can use the same arguments for one or the other. As an example, if we were to choose the first one and we said that it's better to study in public places, can you guys think of one reason why it would be better to study in a public place with other people around? What could be one reason in favor of public places?
We can discuss about the topic.
Okay, all right. So you have other people to talk to, right? But if it's a public place, do you really think that you can stop other people from what they're doing and talk to them about what you're studying? I don't know. Maybe if you're with your friends, right, or your classmates. But okay, I'm gonna write it down. Any other reason?
Maybe since the other people are studying too, you can be more productive and stop being distracted and just keep studying.
Okay, I like that. So yeah, that's true too. Let's say you're in a library or maybe in a cafe, then sometimes you feel forced to study, right? When you're around other people. If you're alone, but in a public place. And then like if you're at home, like let's go with the opposite side, right? If you're at home and you're alone, it's a place where with no people there. Maybe you feel like you're hungry all of a sudden and you go to the kitchen and to get something to eat. Or maybe, I don't know, you go to the living room and the TV is on. Maybe your electronic devices are there, right? Maybe you get distracted with other things that you have to do at home. So yes, maybe in that sense, then you have less distractions. If you go to a public place, you will feel more productive and you study better, you concentrate better on what you're doing, you have less distractions. Now, what about studying in a place where there are no people around or few people around? What would be one reason for studying there? The same one, right? We can say that you concentrate better because of the noise. Maybe in a public place, although you feel more productive, at the end of the day, you have more noise in a public place, right? Maybe there are other people talking to each other there. So you have less distractions. If you're somebody that 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 get distracted really easily, then maybe a noisy place isn't for you, right? So we can go with the same argument, really. We can say that less distractions would be an argument for public places because you don't have the distractions that you have at home, per se. And second, we can go with the same argument that you have less distractions when you study in a place with no people around, right? So at the end of the day, you can use the same, as you can see, the same arguments most of the time for both sides. It's just the way that you approach. And it doesn't really matter what you're saying. It doesn't matter if you say, well, I can actually concentrate better in a public place, and somebody else says the opposite. This is something that we can always debate on. This is always subjective. And remember, this is the independent question. So content isn't the first thing here. The most important part here is the way that you formulate your sentences, the way that you speak, and you need to obviously be coherent and make sense. But as long as you have good, well-structured sentences and they make sense, they are related to the topic, you'll be fine. No matter what you choose, no matter what reason you give, no matter if somebody can debate on what you're saying, that's fine, okay? So the reason why we did this is for you to see that it doesn't matter which option you choose. You can always find reasons to support that choice. So please don't spend too much time over analyzing the question and thinking things too much, thinking this through and seeing which one is actually better, because that doesn't matter, right? Both of them, either of them is fine, no matter which one you decide to go for, it'll be okay. Okay, guys? So in this case, should we go for option 1 or 2? What do you guys think? Option 1 or 2? Mateo, what do you think? Do you prefer to study in public places or places where there are no people around?
I prefer number 2.
Okay, so let's go for that one. It doesn't really matter. Now, if we're gonna go for option 2, we have already thought about the reason, right? And usually that's the way that it goes. You read the options, you identify them, and your brain tends to go towards one option. I know that happens, that's normal. So you're always gonna be inclined towards one option. And if you feel like you're going for one option, then that means that you have a reason why. There's always a reason. You just need to think about that reason. In this case, we already have a reason, right? That you have less distractions. So that's what we're gonna use. You don't have to do anything but what we just did. When you're preparing your response, everything you should be doing is deciding, which should be 3 seconds, and then the rest of the time should be you trying to come up with one strong, concise, clear, and short reason, okay? Because I know that there are many things we could say to explain this, but we want to go for the shortest, okay? So that's what you do during the first 15 seconds. Choose a side, think about what you're going to answer, and think about why, what's the reason you have. Is that okay so far? Do you guys have any questions? Now, after the 15 seconds are over, they will tell you to start speaking. So here's what you guys need to do. First of all, if you guys remember what we saw yesterday, and the sample responses we saw yesterday, where are they? Here. We're gonna do something exactly like this. We're gonna keep the same structure. We're gonna use this one. So how's the structure? We saw it yesterday. Hang on. This person here had an introduction where he answered the question, he had a reason, and he had an example, right? That's what we're gonna do. That's exactly what we're gonna do in our response. We're gonna have an introduction where we answer the question, we're gonna give our one reason, and we're gonna have one example illustrating that reason. How do we do that? This is a basic template, okay? You can change this, and I'm actually gonna give you tips on how to change this. But what I want you to remember is not the words, but instead the structure of the template, the structure of the response. You have 45 seconds, right? They're gonna start counting down from 45 to 0. During the first 7 to 8 seconds, you should be giving an introduction where you directly and briefly answer the question, okay? So these are 7 to 8 seconds. That means that you should be over the first part when you get to 38 or 37 seconds left, okay? How do you answer the question? You have the phrase here, I would definitely say that. This is a universal phrase that could be used in any question you have. So this is good if you want to keep it that way. Now, if you want to go even further than this and make it even better, then I recommend that for your introduction, you guys use the same verb as in the question. That is the most direct way to answer the question. So what was the verb that was used in this question? What was the verb used in this question?
Prefer.
Exactly, prefer. So if that's the verb, then it'd be great if you can use the same verb in your response for your introduction. So your introduction can go something like this. You're gonna say, let me make it, okay, you're gonna say, I definitely prefer, right? I'm using the same verb as in the question to study in, okay? But what am I doing? I'm using the same verb, prefer, but I'm adding an adverb before the verb. So instead of just saying, I prefer this, I will say, I definitely prefer this. Or I totally, I absolutely, I certainly prefer this. It doesn't matter what adverb you use, but try to use one because they make you sound stronger. Okay, they make your introduction strong. So I definitely prefer. And the second thing you guys are gonna do is please copy and paste the option from the question. Now you have the advantage that you're looking at the question. When you're answering, you have the question on your screen. It won't go anywhere. So you can actually read the question, read what you have in the question. We chose option number 2, right? Which was to study in places where there are few or no people around. So if it's something short, then copy and paste it. Say the same, so your introduction is gonna sound like this. I definitely prefer to study in places where there are few or no people around. So I use the same verb and I copy and paste it from the question, okay? If it's longer, you can try to summarize it. So you can skip some parts that are not that important. So you could say, I definitely prefer to study in places with no people around or where there are no people around. And you summarize it a little bit, although it's not necessary in this case. But try to say the same. Don't paraphrase it, don't change it, don't try to do anything special here. Answer the question directly. They're asking, what do you prefer? To tell me, I prefer this option. Okay, copy and paste the way it is. Is that okay? Do you have any questions about that part? Nope. Okay, that's the best type of introduction you can have. And remember, it has to be short. You don't need to think about the introduction. It's something that comes quickly. What you have to think about is how you're gonna go with your reason and how you're gonna summarize it, because your reason has to be summarized. So you have your introduction already. You have 38 or 37 seconds left. You need to give your first reason and try to do it as concisely and as short, as briefly as you can. Don't explain your reason too much, because over-explaining your reason is gonna make you waste time and it's gonna make you sound redundant when you give the exam. So please don't over-explain your reason, go with something short. So if we thought about distractions, you could say, I would definitely, what we said, right? I definitely prefer to study in a place where with no people around, since you have less distractions. So that was pretty short, right? Pretty concise. If you want, you can explain a little bit and say, I definitely prefer to study in a place where there are no people around, since there are no people, there's no noise, and therefore you have less distractions, right? So you can maybe explain a little bit more if you want, but honestly, you just need one clause there. You don't need anything else. Just one clause is enough. Okay, that is one subject, one verb if you want. So you shouldn't be spending more than 8 to 13 seconds. That means that when you get to 30 or 25, 27 seconds, then you can start, you need to start with your exam. Okay, so you gave your reason, and then you need to give an exam. Now, what happens with the exam? Well, before we get there, any questions so far about what we did so far until the reason? Are we all clear? Is it all clear? Yes, no questions? Okay. As for the example, this is probably the most important part of your response. You need to always give an example, because if not, you're not supporting your response. It won't be complete. Okay, in order to have a complete response, you need to give an example. The example, you have two options. The first one, and the best option, is to talk about specific events, specific personal events, okay, where you give a lot of details. So for example, if we are saying that when you study alone with no other people around, you have fewer distractions, then maybe tell me about a time where you studied alone and you concentrated really well. Or tell me about a time when you didn't study alone, you studied in a public place and you couldn't concentrate and it affected you, right? And how it affected you. So maybe I don't know, go with something like this. For instance, for my last final exams last semester, I don't know, my house was being renovated, which is why I couldn't really study at home. And I went to my university library to study and prepare for my final exams. However, as there were so many people and so many other students around doing group projects, studying for other exams, I wasn't able to concentrate due to the noise, and I ended up getting the lowest grades that I ever got in my final exams. I regret this decision, and I always try to study at home ever since, right? Something like that. So I'm talking about a specific event. I'm giving the context of my example first, when you give a personal event, when you talk about a personal specific event, first thing you need to do is give context, right? So when and where did this happen? When I was preparing for my final exams last semester, that is the context, right? And obviously with the context, you need to always try to give details. Second thing you need to do is tell me what happened. And this has to do with your reason, right? Your reason is distractions. So the what has to be related to distractions. What happened? I couldn't concentrate due to the noise. There were other people around, other students that were preparing for the same exams. Some of them were doing group projects and talking to each other. I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't prepare. My house was being renovated. So you basically give me the actual, right? What happened, the events. Give as many details as you can. Maybe instead of talking about final exams, I can tell about a specific exam, right? I was preparing for, I don't know, maybe you can say I was preparing for my final biology exam, right? So instead of talking about my final exams, I'm talking about a specific one. And then you need to try to give like a resolution. So tell me what you learned about this example. Tell me how this event ended, right? So because of this, then I didn't get the grades that I wanted. I don't know, maybe I failed the class. How this example affected you, right? Maybe ever since you always study alone, you never go to public places to study, how this affected you personally, right? And what you learn about this exam. And that is basically option number one, okay? Talking about a specific event, a personal one, and giving as many details as you can. Is that okay so far? Do you guys get the idea? Do you have any questions before we continue? No? Okay, and the second thing you can do is talk about routines. Okay, let's just say routines. It could be present or past routines. Obviously, if you're gonna go with the second example, it's probably because remember that obviously the best option for advanced students is the first one, okay? To give a specific example, it's always better because you are able to give more details and you can show more grammar. But if you guys feel like you're not ready to do that, maybe you're not good at making up stories, maybe you are still struggling with the grammar part and you cannot really conjugate verbs in the past tense so well, you tend to make a lot of grammar mistakes when you do that. That's fine. If you haven't gotten there yet, that's okay. So you can go with the second option and you can talk about routines and present routines, right? Or another option within the same category would be to talk about hypothetical situations, right? So for example, you could say, imagine something, right? You could say, for instance, let's say that you're a student, you're going to college and you're doing midterms, okay? So I'm trying to be specific, but I'm just presenting a hypothetical situation. So let's say that you're a student, you're in midterms, and you need to prepare for your exams. If you go to the library, you will find plenty of other students doing group projects, preparing for the same exams, and you will probably hear a lot of noise that could distract you while you're studying. This won't have a positive effect on your performance the day of your test, and maybe you will end up failing the class, right? So I'm not really talking about myself, about a specific experience, but I'm presenting a hypothetical situation about what could happen if something happens, right? With conditions. Or you can talk about routines. You can say, whenever I have to prepare for important exams, this is what I do, right? Because of this reason. So you have those two options. No matter which one you choose, you need to consider that details are always important. Okay, so you need to try to give as many details as you can. Is this okay so far? Is this clear? Do you have any questions about how to give examples? No questions? Okay. Now, you need to be careful aside from the content, aside from the grammar, aside from the vocabulary, aside from the way you speak. Also, remember one of the things they look at is the way you manage your time, right? Now, what do you need to do? First thing, don't run out of time. And I know it sounds a little bit complicated, but you need to do multitasking here because you need to be able to think, improvise, speak, and look at the clock at the same time. So you need to constantly look at the clock and see how much time you have left in each part. So if you see that you only have 15 seconds left, you need to work based on your time. Your time is not gonna accommodate based on where you are in your response, right? That won't change. It's gonna be counting down. So you need to work based on the time that you have left, no matter what happens. So if you see that you have 15 seconds, then please don't start the example, right? Don't start like a full story for the example. You need to go with something shorter. If you only have 5 seconds, don't start a new idea because you're not gonna be able to finish. So by the time that the 45 seconds are over and they stop recording, your response should at least look complete. Even if it isn't everything that you wanted to say, it needs to sound like you ended your ideas. Because if it sounds like you ran out of time and you didn't finish an idea, it wasn't complete, then your score could be affected, okay? Not only that, but two, you don't need to have too much extra time. I mean, you cannot have, I don't know what I'm saying, you cannot have too much extra time, okay? So if you have like 3 seconds left, that's okay. If you have 3, 2, or 1 seconds left, that's fine. But if you have more, then you need to do something to fill out that time. If you have, let's say, 3 to 7 seconds left, you can go with a conclusion, okay? So if you have like less than 10 seconds, go with a conclusion. Depending on the time, you can go with something shorter or long. If you have like 5 or 4 seconds, you can say, and this is the main reason why I feel this way, right? That was exactly 4 seconds, or maybe even less. If you have more than that, go with a shorter conclusion and repeat your opinion. So tell me, and this is the main reason why I always prefer to study in a quiet place, alone, right? So you're going with something longer, you're restating your opinion. But if you have more than that, if you have 10, 15, even 20 seconds, you need to give another reason. And you're going to have to improvise here. So you're going to tell me, furthermore, and add another reason, right? Something like, furthermore, I don't know. When you study alone, you can, or when you study at home, you're more comfortable, you can wear your own clothes, or you can wear, I don't know, at-home clothes, and you have all the tools you need there, right? So add something else, add a second reason. Honestly, you shouldn't have enough time. If you have too much time, then that's like a red flag because your example maybe wasn't too detailed, or maybe your first reason wasn't to explain. Okay, so you can always like expand a little bit more your first reason. Is that okay though? Do you guys have any questions? Anything to ask, anything to say about this? No questions? Okay. So does anyone want to try? Who wants to go first? Who wants to do this one that we basically just did, right? So put everything together. Try to see maybe how you're managing your time. Who wants to try this first one out? Anyone? No, nobody?
Can I try, teacher?
Yes, Harry. First. Okay. So please, you can go ahead.
Okay. I will definitely say that I like to study in public places, of course, where there are other people around. Since I realized that I can be more concentrated when I am in an environment like this. For example, when I was in college, I was always studying at the library because it was easier to me to get more concentrated and even to learn faster, and also to memorize all the knowledge that I have learned the day before. So yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, Harry, great. That was really nice, honestly. That was a really good response. It was simple, but remember that this is supposed to be simple. Your sentences were great, grammar was good, vocabulary too. You had a personal example. So no comments, really. That was a really nice response. Well done. And the way you manage your time too. You finished the idea right on time and you spoke calmly. You intonated correctly the sentences.
Thank you so much, teacher.
Okay. So what do you guys think? You know, that's a realistic response and it's a good one. That's how you guys have to go. You don't have to think about like what we heard yesterday, right? Those were just sample responses to see the content of the or the content and the structure, right, of the answer. So do you guys have any questions now before we start practicing? Questions? Okay, guys, so this is just a matter of practice. We'll do as many questions as we can. And anyways, we have tomorrow and Friday to practice. So now that we've seen the theory, let's try to do some questions. Okay. All right. Let's start with this first question. It says, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? A university's academic reputation is the most important thing a student should consider in deciding which university to attend. Use examples and details to support your opinion. Okay? You guys will now have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. So please, does anyone want to go? Any volunteers? Maybe Valentina? Do you mind going first?
Okay, teacher.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't understand the question. Can I read one more time, please?
Okay, sure.
Okay, I think I'm ready.
Okay, great, Valentina. So please go on.
Okay, I agree that academic reputation is one of the important thing a student should consider, because sometimes other people can tell you that the university is no good, and in my case, in my university is a really good one, but studying in there has changed my opinion. I don't know.
Okay, Valentina, hold on. So it wasn't bad, it was your first try. So no problem there. And it was honestly good. It wasn't bad. So let's analyze it a bit. First, you had your introduction. You were saying, I agree that. I like that you used the same verb. It is, do you agree or disagree? So you started well. I agree that. And then again, the reason why I told you to read the question and try to use the same words is because first to avoid wasting time and also to avoid going off topic, right? Because you said, I agree that the academic reputation of a university is one of the most important things a student should consider. But the question is, do you think that is the one most important thing, right? So the most important thing is different than one of the most important things. So try to always use the same. So I agree that the academic reputation of a university is the most important thing. Then the reason. So your reason was that, what was your reason exactly?
Mm, um, I don't remember, teacher. I think I said that in I don't know how to say in English.
What have you said?
Sorry, I can hear you.
So what was your reason? What was your reason? I couldn't quite understand. You said that sometimes other people can tell you something, right?
Yes, like I meant like if it was good or bad depends on the experience maybe with the university.
Okay. But I don't really get how that explains that, yes, the academic reputation is the most important thing about a university.
Maybe I get confused in that part.
Okay. What's another reason you could use? Why is a university's academic reputation the most important thing to consider?
It could be the level of the education, or
Yeah. Yes, that would be a good reason. So yes, you could say because you go to university to study, right? That you go to for the academic part mainly. And if you want a university with a good level, then you need to hear what other people think or say about that university, right? That could be one thing. Also, because maybe academic reputation is really considered by later when you graduate from university, when you go out, that's really considered by employers, right? Or companies. They usually consider academic reputation of the universities. Okay, so maybe just that. Okay, you gave your example. It was a personal one too. It's good. But maybe the logical part was missing, right? I didn't quite understand how your ideas were connected. Remember that everything has to be about the same. So if you say that academic reputation is important because companies look at academic reputation of universities, Give me an example about that, right? Maybe you went to a university that has a really good reputation and it was easy for you to get a job. Or maybe you went to a university with not such a good reputation and you are still struggling looking for jobs. So it has to be related, okay?
Okay, thanks, teacher.
Okay, guys, let's go with another one. This one here says, some people buy food that is already prepared. Other people buy fresh food and prepare meals themselves. Which do you prefer? Explain why using details and examples in your answer. So you guys will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses now. Okay, so who wants to go? Maybe Cynthia, do you want to try?
Okay, teacher.
Okay, Cynthia, so please, you can go ahead now.
I definitely buy food that is already prepared because it is more quickly to when you have another activities. For example, when you have or go to the work and don't have time to prepare or don't have time in the middle of your job for eat something, it's very quickly eat prepare food. And it's more I don't know.
Okay, Cynthia, you were trying to go with another reason, but you didn't have that much time, right? You could have gone with a conclusion at the end. Now, what I could tell you, good introduction. So you use the same verb. I definitely prefer to buy food that is already prepared. Great introduction. You have your reason, which is it makes sense and it supports what you're saying. Since it's quicker, right? Careful with the adjective, right? Adjectives versus adverbs. Something could be quicker, faster, or you can save time by doing something. And when you do something, you can do it quickly, right? So you do something quickly or something is quicker. Quickly describes an action, right? So I am running quickly. I am running quickly. Quickly is describing the action that I'm doing. But when you want to describe something like, I don't know, maybe somebody, this person is quicker than the other, you're describing someone, then you only use quick or quicker, right? Careful there with the grammar, but your reason was good, so you save time when you buy pre-prepared food. And your example was also great. You talked about things specifically, you mentioned work and stuff. I would suggest you though to make it a little bit more personal. So instead of telling me, for example, when you have to go to work or when you have to have lunch in the middle of work, right? You only have like 10 minutes maybe to have lunch. Instead of doing that, try to go with something personal, even if it's a routine, right? Tell me, for example, I work from 9 to 5 and I get a 15-minute break to eat lunch. So I'm being more specific. I'm using the same idea of having to work and not having time to prepare food, but I'm being more specific and I'm talking about myself. So you say, for example, I work from 9 to 5 and I get a 15-minute break to have lunch. I don't have enough time to buy fresh food and prepare my meals, but instead I'm forced to buy food and this saves time. I don't know, maybe I can use this time for something else. So talk about yourself and be a bit more specific with your example, okay? And if you have a few seconds, go with a conclusion. Don't get stuck in the end, you know? Your response is going good. And if you have extra time, don't get nervous, just go with a short conclusion. Make it look like it's nothing, okay? Is that okay? Do you have any questions? Does anyone have any questions? No questions? Okay, guys, let's see. Okay. So here we have, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? It is more enjoyable for students to read works of fiction, such as novels and stories, than nonfiction. Use specific examples and details to support your opinion. Okay, you guys will have now 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, guys. So, does anyone want to try voluntarily? Should I pick? Nobody? Maybe Mateo, why don't you try?
Okay.
Well,
One moment, please. My internet is a bit slow. I didn't read.
okay, you didn't read the question? Okay, I'll give you some more time. Please read.
Okay.
Okay, please go now.
I certainly disagree about that statement. Since nonfiction stories are since nonfiction stories, depending on the event they are based on, are more interesting to the students. For instance, I got no time.
Okay, Mateos, what happened? Okay, so first of all, you wasted too much time. You wasted your entire response, and honestly, you didn't give me a reason, all right? Because what you said technically was, I disagree with this statement. That was your opinion, okay, good. But then when you explained your reason, you said, since nonfiction stories are more interesting than fiction works, right? So at the end of the day, you just said, you just repeated what you have in the question, right? But you didn't really give me a reason why. So why are nonfiction stories more interesting than fiction ones? You didn't tell me why. You just said, basically, your entire response was around your opinion, but you didn't give me reasons. You didn't layer it out. So my advice, never, never say something like, I disagree with this statement, and don't tell me what that statement is, okay? It's better, even if it takes more time, to say the entire thing in the beginning. So you tell me, I disagree that, I don't know, that fiction is more interesting than nonfiction, right? So tell me already the opinion, the complete opinion in the introduction. Because if you just say, I disagree with this statement, then you are tempted to use your opinion again in your reason, okay? I don't know if you guys understand what I mean, but basically, in your reason, you cannot repeat your opinion. When you say that you disagree, you are already saying that you think that nonfiction could be more interesting. So if you repeat that again, then it's redundant, okay? Do you guys understand that? Yes? So careful with that. And that's gonna save you time at the end of the day. And don't forget your example, right? So maybe you can mention a book that you read, Tell me, for instance, I was just finishing reading, maybe you can make up something, so a book that doesn't exist. So tell me, I was reading this book about World War II, and this happened, and they were relating, they were, I don't know, they were narrating this and that events. You can make up something, or if you know one, then you can mention an actual book, right, that you've read. It depends, but it's fine if you make something up. So is that okay? Do you guys have any questions now? No? So again, it was your first try, no problem. We're gonna practice. We have a lot of time to practice. Exactly. So we have 2 more classes and we're just gonna practice. Starting tomorrow, we finish the theory. So we'll do what we're doing right now. We'll take a look at some questions. We'll see some possible answers for those questions. You guys will answer them and I'll give you feedback based on your responses. Okay? So honestly, you know, even if you feel like you're okay, try to always practice as much as you can. Because practicing, not only does it improve your answer in terms of the content, but it also gives you more ideas. Because sometimes the problem that students have in this question is coming up with ideas, right? So the more you practice, the more you think about these questions, given that all of them are about the same topics. So the more you do questions about work and education, the more ideas you'll have about those topics, right? And if you get a question about work and education, you'll have good vocabulary, you'll have good ideas. So that's why it's always important to practice. Okay, guys? So we'll be practicing tomorrow and Friday. Do you have any questions though? Any final thoughts, any final comments before we leave? Nope, everything okay? Okay, guys, so please, today we have to fill out 2 surveys. I just send you the first one. And as soon as you guys are done with this one, I'll send the other one. Please don't go yet, even if you're done with this survey, because there's another one. Please, let me just see, we have 2 more missing. Okay, we're just missing one. We're just missing one response for this one. Okay, guys. So anyways, I'm sending you the other one too, please. And this is the last one. So thank you so much for being here today. I will see you guys tomorrow. Remember, we'll do practice. So it's really important to practice. Speaking is all about practice. Okay, guys? Thank you so much. See you tomorrow.
Bye, teacher.
Bye, teacher.
Thank you.
Bye, teacher.
Bye, guys.